My name is Krish Kandiah and I'm the author of God is Stranger. So most of us, when we open the Bible, we recognise that God is stranger than we understand, that he keeps doing really odd things that I can't comprehend. In fact, there are whole parts of the Bible that we don't really look at because we're kind of a little bit nervous about them. I remember the time I was given my first Bible, I was also given a highlighter pen. Like, what was I supposed to do with a highlighter pen? I was supposed to mark the bits I agreed with, and what was I supposed to do with the rest of it? And it's the rest of it that I want to look at, those really difficult passages. So there's a chapter in the book where we look at God's interaction with Abraham just before he wipes out Sodom and Gomorrah. Why does God barter with Abraham? Why does he send two angels in disguise who then nearly get gang raped by a whole city? What is God doing? He's stranger than we've ever imagined. And it's in that wrestling with God the stranger that I think we come to a more profound and real relationship with the true God, rather than the projection that we sometimes create of the God that we want to worship. I think mystery is a really important category in the Bible, and sometimes people give up too early. They say, oh, that's really complicated, it must be a mystery, I don't want to think about it anymore. But God invites us to think even more about it if we don't understand it. We're supposed to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul and mind. And I like to think it's a little bit like doing Sudoku. Have you ever seen those little mathematic puzzles? The more you do of it, the more your brain is trained and it's kind of enlarged. I think that's what you're supposed to do with the difficult parts of the Bible. They're supposed to be a bit of a resistance to kind of build your resilience and your understanding so you come to a real relationship with God. I worry about people who have a God that they completely understand and they completely agree with. The chances are that you have created a God that suits you. The only kind of God that you completely understand and you completely agree with is an idol that you've created for yourself. All the time in the Bible, you have people arguing with God, wrestling with God. Jacob wrestling in the middle of the night with a stranger. David trying to figure out where is God and what he's doing. Job, not understanding what's going on. It's the normal Christian life to wrestle with the God that we don't understand. This book is written for anyone that wants a deeper and richer relationship with God. It's got a sting in the tail, there's a double meaning in the title, and it's like a little Trojan horse to get you thinking about God. And there's a little mystery in there that if you get to the end, I think will unlock a whole new level of intimacy with God. So at one level, it's really simple. God is stranger. He's stranger than you ever imagined, stranger than you've ever tried to understand. But actually in the Bible, God says, I was a stranger and you welcomed me in. I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. And in fact, all through Scripture, God turns up as a stranger. And it's our reaction to him that demonstrate whether we really know God at all. So writing is a little bit like theological therapy for me. If there's something I don't understand, I've got to try and figure it out. And I think as I write, and I write as I think. And I've found in previous books I've written, I wrote a book called Paradoxology, Why Christianity Was Never Meant to Be Simple. A lot of people found a lot of help in that book. People that were new to the faith, people that had been believers for 50 years. One guy said, I've been looking for a book like this for 50 years. And you go, wow. And all I was doing was putting out there things that I was struggling to understand. And in that process, I think some people have been helped. So this book has a really strong challenge in it. And it asks you how you are relating to strangers. One classic example, do you remember Jesus has died on the cross, two disciples are walking away from Jerusalem because they think their world has ended. Their hopes were that Jesus was the Messiah, he was going to come and wipe out the Romans, and it was, the end of the world, but a good end of the world. And then Jesus dies on the cross, the worst possible death they could have imagined. And they're dejected, and they're kind of walking, if they were a dog, they'd have their tail between their legs, and then a stranger comes alongside them and asks them questions that make no sense. And they say, are you the only person in Israel that doesn't know what's happened? And it's a joke because this is the only person in Israel that knows what's happened. This is Jesus turning up in disguise. And they get to their home and the stranger looks like he's going to go off, and they beg him to come into their house. And they offer him hospitality and they give him a great honor. They allow him to be the person that breaks the bread and thanks God for it. And it's as he breaks the bread that their eyes are opened and they realize they've been talking to Jesus all along. I think that is a little instance of how hospitality opens up our eyes to meet Jesus. That's why Matthew 25 says, I was a stranger and you welcomed me in. That's why God says that whatever you do for the least of these, you do for me. And so this book argues that we need to wrestle with God with our minds, but actually in our hearts we need to be open to receive the stranger, because as we do so, we either are entertaining angels or entertaining God himself. So if you're not sure whether you want to read this book or not, I say go online, have a look at some of the people that have commended it. I've been so encouraged that people from all sorts of denominations, all sorts of backgrounds, whether you're an academic or whether you're brand new to the faith, I've been so encouraged by the feedback we've been getting that this book is helping unlock something for people. That if you're not satisfied with simple answers and bumper sticker Christianity, if you don't want to just believe a fridge magnet version of God, you need to open this book, and I'm hoping it will open the Bible to you at another level, and it will open a level of intimacy with God that you might never have known.